Let's get into what we're going to be talking about today, which is Tangem Pay. You guys have seen our Tangem cards a lot. They're one of our channel partners. Well, today we're going to break down how Tangem Pay is going to work. You don't want to miss it. Let's just jump right in. I want to bring in the CEO of Tangem Pay, Marcos Nunez. How are you?
Very good, very good. Thank you, Paul, for having me here.
Absolutely. Listen, we're recording this as of Black Friday here in the United States. Tangem has an amazing deal. You guys can, of course, jump over and get 20% off plus a $10 Bitcoin reward. So this is the time. If you haven't done self-custody yet, this is the time you want to do it. It's worth the time to go out and do it. And everybody's off eating, just had turkey. Everybody's sitting down watching some football. I understand that. Americans do that kind of stuff. Take some time, go out and get this started. We got to get into this,
Indeed.
Marcos. First of all, how many users are on Tangem today?
That actually holds the hardware wallet, nearly 1 million. Monthly active users, about 350K,
Okay,
whereas majority of them are sitting in the US.
that's amazing.
So
That's
a
amazing.
lot of our users are going to be, watching football, as you say.
Yes, yes, for sure. You guys also had a big update around Tangem Pay. I was talking to some of your team. This is a pretty amazing leap forward when you think about financial services. I'll go to your website real quick. This is self-custody instant spending. So explain to me how I can do this with a self-custody wallet using a Visa, essentially the Visa credit card network. How does this work?
Yeah.
Explain a little bit more about it.
So from a user perspective, it works exactly the same as a traditional card. You basically have a PIN code and you can just go into any terminal. And as long as you have balance in your spend account, you can just, tap and pay. So,
Okay.
but in reality, what happens behind the scenes, essentially, you send USDC to your spending account directly from your hardware wallet. So you have your
Yep.
hardware wallet account, you swap and send one click, and then you basically download your Visa card. You would still need to go KYC for this product specifically. Don't worry, your Tangem is not going to be KYC, or your funds are not going to be KYC. It's essentially this specific account that is going to be KYC, and everything that you move into this account, essentially you can just use in any terminal. No additional
Okay.
fees. $100 is $100 in spending. So it almost feels like a debit account rather than
Can I go
just the
back
same
and
as your bank.
forth? Can I go back and forth?
Yes.
Okay, so back and
Yep.
forth, if I put more in there than I don't want to spend on the
Yep.
card, I can flip it back over and start earning
Exactly.
yield
It's
on it.
not a gift card. It's not
Okay,
prepaid card. It's actually an account. So
interesting.
you essentially just spend anywhere, just like dollars. And
Okay, so Marcos, one question I have is the speed in which transactions occur. With this is, I would say if I have one negative thing I look at around Tangem, it's the speed in which a swap occurs. I want to swap whether it's on Changely or many of the other ones that are out there. By the time it shows back, I know it's immediate on chain, but by the time it shows back up in your wallet, it might be 15, 20 minutes, in some cases an hour. What about with going into Tangem Pay? Is it instantaneous? What's the speed mechanism?
it's
Instantaneous.
instant.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Well,
So
that's
that
good.
basically, yeah. I mean, we rely on partners for swap because we don't hold the swap functionality
Right.
ourselves. We just display, and therefore you see this delays on the swap itself. But effectively, once you send from directly to your wallet, I mean, it's immediately out there. I mean, even if you have USDC directly, if you want to use another provider for swap, I mean, we don't lock in users to do things in our site, but you just choose and you can do it.
Right. Yeah. I'm looking at the website right now. You can go in, drop in your residence. I know this is going to be available in the United States, and you can join the wait list right now. So you guys should do that.
Yes.
When is this going to launch, Marcos?
It's officially launched. We are using our community users right now as beta users, but I expect to release officially to everybody from December 15th onwards.
Okay,
and then we're going
that's
to
really what I
start
meant.
releasing all
When would
over.
it be publicly
Yes.
available? All right,
Yeah.
so December
December
15th.
15th, we're going to start putting it out. The more the users, the ones that join the waiting list gets first, and we progressively deliver throughout the
Okay.
days from 15
I'm
onwards.
Okay, so I'm looking at a couple of things here. When you look at more providers that are coming, I'm looking at one of our screenshots here, just showing, the way that this will work. Who's that going to be? Could we see someone like a Coinbase or a Robinhood in here?
From the swap, you mean?
Yes, like you've got here
Or
just for transactions. In terms of availability right now, I can use Mercurial. If I want to access funds, could we get at some point Coinbase or Robin here to be able to access crypto, whether it's USDC or other crypto funds that I want to move into an asset base?
you can move via Wallet Connect your funds into Tangem hardware wallet.
Hmm.
I mean, and we don't connect those wallets with the hardware wallet, right?
Right.
Itself. So, I mean, you can definitely transfer those funds to the spending account. I mean, the channel will always be via the hardware wallet and not directly from the Robinhoods or the Coinbases to the spending account. And the only reason is we still run the KYT on the original funds. So everything, the way you have to look at the difference between the storage and the spending is actually in the spending. We are compliant with everything that we must be compliant with in order to provide the services. So it's almost like a separate business within a business because we are running KYT, we're running KYC, we're making sure that the experience of the user is not going through tons of documentations to just
Right.
open a bank account to get the funds in, and then you can spend it. So the idea is that within 3 to 5 minutes, you can move whatever you want to spend into that spending account. But
Perfect.
we do want you to use the hardware wallet and your hardware wallet account in order to go through this process of spending.
So once I'm in the Tangem Pay account, would I be able to buy crypto within that using it? Like where you could, there's some cards out there where you just can buy directly in off of the account itself. Anything like that going to happen?
Basically, it's a Visa card. It accepts in any terminal or any one of the 130 million merchants all over the world that accepts Visa, right? So if you want to buy crypto using that card, and you simply must have balance in that account. If you can actually within the Tangem app, if you can switch between different assets today, the answer is not yet.
Okay. All right.
And simply because, I mean, again, the purpose is first, we have 1 million users that holds substantial amount of money, and they often have difficulties to off ramp
Yeah.
simply
Yeah.
because they have very complex KYC that they have to go through in all the countries that we basically serve. And the idea is to reduce that first pain. Then from there
Huge.
is a second pain. I want to go and spend in my local currency. I don't want to spend in dollars when I live, in Europe. Then we're going to allow different types of stables for the different markets. But the idea
Okay.
is to always have stables in the spending account because the actual wealth should be sitting in the hardware wallet. We don't want to mix. We don't want to confuse the purposes. If you want to store and grow, that's where you should use, the hardware wallet and all the
Right.
security around to protect your wealth. The spending is your weekly money, is your monthly money, is your daily money you choose. And that should be available like a debit card, even though
Yeah.
so it mimics your bank essentially.
So
So a
is
bit of
it,
what Kraken is going to
yes,
and
okay, so
others.
Kraken's launching their debit card. So when you're going to a retailer, will they see it as a debit card or will they see it as a credit card?
They will see it as a credit card, but it will
Oh,
behave like a debit
a
card
debit card. Wow. So this
because
is kind of a
it,
new,
it's
I've not seen one of these before.
it is. We are trying to make something again, the way to disrupt the world is not by basically saying, let's remove everyone and try to reinvent the wheel, try to reinvent the network, try to reinvent, the point of sale. I think there's substantial infrastructure out there that we can leverage.
Okay,
So our idea is to interoperate with the existing infrastructure, and from that moment onwards, offer the experience that we want our users to have.
right.
So if it's a debit transaction, we want them to have that feeling of debit transaction. If they want credit, we will offer credit in some time from now, still in 26. But I want them to behave like this should be their card for everything they do from now onwards.
Yeah. We'll get
And it
into
will,
roadmap at the end, but I'm kind of curious,
yes.
is there any plan to get a banking license? I mean, you've got a credit card or a debit card here at some point. Would you want an ABA routing
No
number
need.
to where people could use it for that?
We We definitely don't need that. And we are coming up with ACH wire transfer.
Oh, okay.
We're
All
coming
right.
up with everything without the need of that license.
Okay. Well, if you're
So
getting
we
into some of
expect to do
those are some of the things
banking
you need.
without
Yeah.
being a banker.
Okay. I
Yes.
like that. I like that. One other thing I wanted to hit on also in today's call was to talk about Tangem yield, because that's a big move forward for Tangem as a whole. Now you've got all of these stable coins being powered by Aave, which is where the yield is working. You guys have announced this. I'm kind of curious. When you go into Aave, I'm over here on the core instance there. You can kind of see all the stable coins that are in there. RLUSD is in there as well. Would I be able to earn yield on my RLUSD inside Tangem?
Yeah, so we have USDC and USDT basically on the yield right now. The idea is to actually connect that to the spending account. So basically, you have balance sitting in the spending account instead of just, you know, being there, not accruing value to the user. The idea is that basically that money goes directly to your yield account, and then you
Okay,
can authorize transactions from that yield account.
I
So
see.
we're going to
Okay,
start linking all of this accounts behind the scenes as users are interested on. So truly behaving like a bank. And normally bankers do not give yields back on checkings account.
hmm
Well, we want to be slightly different in that concept.
What blockchain are you guys running on for these transactions?
Right now, Polygon.
All right, Polygon.
And
There
we've
you go.
been criticized a lot about that. Why
Right.
Polygon? Why not other networks? I
Yeah.
mean, speed, cost. We don't want our users to pay gas fees on these transactions. $100 should be $100. And we have partnered with the Polygon guys. They are supporting us in the. I mean, it behaves exactly like a card.
Yeah.
So it's 2 seconds, and you're authorizing on-chain balance. That's
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah.
This is not off-chain balance. This is on-chain balance. So the user are basically authorizing against its the self-custody account.
Okay. All right. These are all good things, I think, as we see you guys. I mean, we've of course had you guys as a partner for a long time, and I've seen the development of a basic self-custody wallet into a very active financial instrument that is just continuing to
Yes.
grow. So kudos to everything you guys are doing. I'm kind of okay. So let's take a look at a couple other things. We've had two things that have played into this around payments. Part of this would be in the area of point of sale terminals, things like that. You've got Burner. We had them on last week. They're using kind of almost like a little gift card to where you can use it as at a merchant. With Tangem Pay, you're going right into the Visa system. Is there a potential down the road where you could somehow incorporate crypto into payment that could possibly link up to a point of sale system that any retailer could get access to?
I will be blunt to answer not in the short term,
Okay.
and I don't see this happening in the next 2 to 3 years. I would not spend time on this, and
Yeah.
it's not because the guys are doing something that doesn't make sense. It's quite the contrary. I think it makes a lot of sense, but our philosophy is to disrupt within the existing
Yeah.
infrastructure.
No, I get it.
Interoperability allows users and adoption to be a lot cheaper and faster. And I mean, I was the co-CEO of a very large financial business. We grew rapidly in 14 countries. In the acquiring side, we had um, almost 800,000 merchants. And the
Hmm.
problem of a merchant is, they are mamas and papa shops. They
Yep.
are not really familiar with technology. They just want to receive as many currencies as they can to sell more. They don't want to think about different devices. They don't want to think about different products. Like if you can give them one device that transacts 1,000 different types of currencies, perfect.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
give them five devices to make less, to cost less, they, it's very difficult to make them adopt. So in my view, using the network is great. And I think there's a very misunderstanding of the cost in the payments. Visa is not the main problem. The problem is the tech stack of the banking industry.
Right. Yeah.
It's from COBOL and mainframe, which
Hmm.
were created in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
And the iPhone that, my iPhone today will probably be great in 2030, still needs to talk to this 1960s and 1970s. So you have so many aggregators. And today, between a merchant and an issuer, you have about 15 players getting a little slice of the transaction. So
Yeah.
by introducing blockchain accounts connected into the Visa network, we are able to go back into that three-party model, four-party model, or five-party model in the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So I think we have enough room to reduce the cost of the transaction without having to go into the hardware or re-educating the
Okay. All right.
merchants. And
I mean,
that's
if you
just a
get,
belief.
yeah, if you can get to that level where you can not only make it convenient, but also change the cost, even if it's just a fraction of a percent, that's a big deal for a retailer overall. I think
So,
obviously for the consumer side, you're hitting it, in terms of features though.
but that's normally, the joke between the chicken and the egg. Actually,
Yeah.
it's always the egg. So, in fact, in this situation, you start from the issuing side because that's the demand. And
Hmm.
once the BIN, which is the number associated with your card, touch the terminal, you can recognize it's a stable account. From
Okay.
that moment onward, if Circle or other Tether decide to have a partnership with that merchant, we can route the
Ah.
transaction rather than
Oh,
going to
hello.
Visa. You can go to
Okay,
those guys.
that right there is a big, okay, that changes my thinking on this differently
Exactly.
than how merchants have been able to deal with this in the past. That's a very interesting point you just raised.
I can go maybe one tiny step deeper, not to be too technical again, but there's something called the single messaging and the dual messaging, which are how do you deal with authorization,
Yes.
clearing, and settlement in a
Hmm.
transaction? So you authorize, okay, you can now Paul take the goods, and once it's confirmed that transaction was done by you through the authentication
Hmm.
mechanisms, then you settle with the scheme. So you clear and then you settle. The
Okay.
difference between single and dual is that single, you do authorization, clear, and settlement in one message,
Yep.
and dual, you do authorization separate from clearing and settlement. So
Yeah.
we can use the schemes to authorize because the network and the infrastructure is already there.
Already there. Yeah.
But for clearing and settlement, you can make bilateral agreements
Ooh,
with stable providers. So you don't
huge.
need to disrupt. You can still use the schemes and you can still use the entire infrastructure of the world.
Well,
Why
yeah,
throwing in the trash
exactly.
something that is
You're
working?
completely supplanting the old banking system at that point, because then you would be looking at a reroute on how that. I think the key there is if retailers finally get to the point where they feel comfortable with stablecoins, you're going to have retailers going to Tether and Circle and trying this, or someone like Ripple. All these guys would be able to do this.
And maybe a little tip for those that think I'm a bit crazy, look at Circle Payment Network
Well, exactly.
and,
Yeah.
and, and try to understand behind the scenes the move.
Hmm.
So I am. I think I've been in payments too long. I helped to create a lot of the payment regulation all over the world. So I've seen enough to understand that we can disrupt sufficiently just by
Yeah,
taking the Garfields out
right.
before we actually replace technology. So there's too many, people in between that are not needed
Yeah.
that you can just simply bypass them.
Yeah, for sure. Are you at all worried about the Clarity Act here in the U.S., where if we get some pushback on self-custody? I think there's been questions about self-custody. There's a lot of Congress that are defending this adamantly. Are you concerned about that at all right now?
Um, I mean, right now, not. I definitely think it's an important topic. Obviously, we are supporters of the self custody. The entire
Hmm.
product is based on self custody. I am a believer of choice. So, open banking for me is kind of a self custody concept
Yeah,
because the data on chain should be freely moving from different providers that I
no doubt.
choose as a human. So self custody is the only way for you to actually do this in its full potential. But again, I actually think we can work around this topic together with the authorities. So hopefully, we're called also to influence in this type of topic. I'm behind the scenes trying to help as much as possible.
For sure. Last question to you. If you think about the centralized exchange debit slash credit cards that are being touted out there, what you guys have done is kind of combined the idea of self-custody with yield now, along with Tangem Pay, that kind of benefits both within one ecosystem. Do you think the end of centralized exchange debit and credit cards are coming near versus DeFi and self-custody?
I I I truly hope because it's the most expensive mechanism a user can have
Yeah.
in from apart from the safety, security, I mean all the topics that we're all very familiar with. I think it's just super costly, and
Hmm.
the alternative that we're bringing, it behaves more as a typical financial institution where users are going to feel more comfortable to migrate. So if maybe I want to kind of paint a little image of Tangem, where we're going, so people can kind of
Please do.
understand a bit of our vision. Imagine that 200 years ago in Switzerland, we're a Swiss business. People wanted to, for true security and safety, they wanted to bring their funds to Switzerland, and then a manager would have a key, and the user would get a key, and then everything that you put it in a safe could only be opened with those two keys. And then essentially you would go away, and then your money is sitting there, and you're totally happy and secure that that was safe. Fast forward 200 years, we're replicating the exact same thing but without that manager.
Hmm.
And what we learn in the banking system is that one point is not about just keeping and storing funds in a secure place, but it's also growing them over time. And what products like the yield and swaps and the different mechanisms that we're bringing, that hopefully we can come back here in 1 quarter to present as well. It will be more about this growth and this access to credit that users will be
Right.
able to, increase their wealth, but at the same time have the mechanisms to spend the wealth. And then the third block is actually the spending. So the
Hmm.
IBANs, the ACH, the wire transfers, the PIX keys. So whatever it is for you to transfer, either because you want to pay a rent or because you want to, just use a debit card, credit card. So that is the vision of Tangem for 2026.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if we can realize, 50% of that already, I think our user base and our community is going to be extremely excited about the banking rails of Tangem.
Yeah, well, I've been watching you guys very closely. Obviously, it was one of the reasons we partnered with you is the acceleration of new features, because a lot of companies kind of sit on their hands in blockchain. They don't really come out with new products and services. You guys have kind of been the opposite of that. So kudos to what you guys are doing. 2026 could be a big year for new stuff coming from
It will
Tangem.
be.
So we're gonna be watching close on this one. Marcos, hey, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming in today. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Paul.
You bet. All right.
And
You
see
got
you soon.
You bet.
Have a
You
good
guys
one.
know what to do. If you are not in our private member group, which is the Bear Market Edge, you guys should be there. It is absolutely free to join, and all you have to do is click the link down below. We'll also leave a link down there for Tangem because you guys can get into self-custody. If you haven't done it, you should be doing that as well. Follow me on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.